And we're rocking. What's up, everyone? Thanks for being here. We are on to Scream 3, going through all the Scream films leading up to Scream 7. I don't know how soon I'm going to be able to record and release my Scream 7 review, but it won't be very long after I see the film. I guarantee you that, but just bear with me. I will go through all the Scream films, review them, and then give a ranking at the end after I see Scream 7. So that will be coming in due time. So Scream 3, let's talk about it. Released in 2000, directed by Wes Craven, R.I.P. the Legends. Yeah, what do I like about it? Well, so I know a lot of people aren't that high on Scream 3. I tend to see this film ranked at the bottom of a lot of people's Scream franchise ranking. Scream 3, for whatever reason, seems to be the film that comes at the bottom. I'll just kind of spoil my ranking video and say this is not gonna be at the bottom for me. I actually quite like Scream 3. I enjoy it. I think I said in my Scream 1 review that Scream for me is one of the most consistent franchises in horror as far as quality. I don't think there's a bad Scream film. Even what I would argue is the worst of the Scream movies, I would still give a positive review to. And when we get to it, you will see that even that film, I'm still going to give a positive review overall to, because I like all the Scream movies. I don't think there's a bad entry in this franchise yet. So, yeah, Scream 3. One thing that I liked about Scream 3, and that I've always liked about it, and it held up watching it back for this review, is the setting. For whatever reason, I'm always fascinated. I always like seeing films that are set in movie studios. You know what I mean? Like when they kind of show the behind the scenes of another film within the film getting made. I always find that really cool and really fascinating to watch. So the fact that this one is kind of, you know, a movie within a movie, you know, this cast, these group of actors are making a stab movie that is based on the events that happened in the first movie. So it's a movie within a movie. And I always find those kind of films are really enjoyable and fun and entertaining. So I do like the setting in this out in LA. I like kind of changing up the scenery here a little bit. Scream, and this is another thing I argued, and I think it was in my Scream 1 review. Scream is one of those franchises, you don't have to have it in the same location in every film. This is not a Friday the 13th. This is not a Halloween. You don't need Camp Crystal Lake every time. You don't need Haddonfield every time. You can set it in different locations because the ghost face, the killer, is always going to change, right? So that you're not restricted in that way. So I like that Scream 3 kind of uses that liberty of placing the story in a different setting that's fun. It's still entertaining. You still have a good time with it, and it works within the story that they're telling. So that's one thing I've always enjoyed with Scream 3 is the change of scenery and the setting to someplace new, but somewhere that you can still do a lot with, and specifically within a production team and in a movie film type setting where there's a film that's going on within the film. You can kind of play with that and you can have fun with it. And I think it works with a kind of mystery whodunit slasher type of film like that. So that's, you know, that was definitely a positive for me. I like what they did with a number of the characters here. I do really like Sydney Prescott in this film. I like how they kind of develop her character even more. You know, in the first film, she was in high school. The second one, she was in college. And now this one, by this point, she's moved on with her life. She's an adult now. She's kind of got her own career going for her, her own thing. She's trying to help other people. I like that. It adds more layers to the character, makes her an even more likable character, in my opinion. And I really like that she is kind of devoting her life to making sure that other people don't have to experience the same type of trauma that she has, or at least help them if they are. And I find that as a real strong quality with the character. And I like that they kind of take that natural progression of the character to that next level and explore, okay, where would this character be at this point in her life now after college? And I think this is a really appropriate place for Sydney. I believe that this character, based on who she is and how we've seen her character, her values and everything about her, what we've seen of that in the first two films, this does feel like a natural progression for the character. And that was something that I did like with Sydney, in that natural progression of the character to a new place, really, in her life. I like the Gale and Dewey relationship. They kind of tighten that more. They don't do what Scream 2 did, in my opinion, with Gale, and kind of reset the character and make her and kind of remove the emotional victory of the prior film. Here, Gale, she doesn't go straight back to being that really kind of douchey reporter lady. Like I felt like her and Dewey both had natural progressions for their characters as well. I think their chemistry works really good. I buy kind of where they are in their relationship. They're not quite fully together yet, but you can see that they both regret not trying harder. And I felt like there was definitely tension there, and there's definitely plot there going on, but I felt like it gets resolved naturally. I don't feel like it was forced romance or chemistry. I felt like both of those came naturally, and you're pulling for them. And then by the end of the film, when ultimately Dewey proposes to Gale, it's an earned kind of victory for those characters, and that's something that I appreciated and like with those characters in this film. I also like the plots really here between Ghostface and Sydney. I felt like this was maybe a more personal plot and deeper than at least 2 was. You might argue that the first one was every bit as personal and deep, with Billy being Sydney's boyfriend. But I do think that this one it felt very personal, because this is family. This is blood and blood. This is Sydney's brother now that's coming after Sydney and trying to kill her. And Sydney doesn't know about him. She has no clue about this other brother. So at this point, she has no clue who the killer would be, in this story. So I like that they kind of play with that, and they really kind of thicken that plot, in my opinion, with Sydney and Roman, who ultimately is revealed to be her brother. You can see the kind of emotional anxiety and the emotional tension that's going on within Sydney's mind, and within her soul. Really, she doesn't want to have to face this killer again for the 3rd time. I just think they do a really good job with that plot and that plot building along the way. I think the plot is naturally developed and revealed along the way. Nothing really feels forced, in my opinion. I like the pacing in the film. Things kind of get discovered at the right time along the way. Like, they don't reveal things too early on and then drag out a plot, and they don't take too long to get to the climax of the plot and just have a bunch of filler in the meantime. I feel like it's natural progression of the plots. The pacing is really good. There's just enough kind of moments of levity, some action sequences in there, some chase scenes in there to kind of fill out that runtime, and you don't really feel feel any filler in the film, and I think they do a really good job handling that in this one. I also liked Patrick Dempsey coming into this one as the detective officer guy that's kind of trying to help Sydney. I think he's a good addition. Lance Henriksen, although he doesn't have a huge role to play in the film, I think he's very good at what he does in the film. I think for the small part that he's given to play, I think he plays it really well, and he elevates the film, in my opinion. He's one of those actors that I always love seeing him on screen. You know, whatever it is and however big the role is, if Lance Henriksen is in it, he's naturally gonna kind of elevate the film for me. He's just a really likable guy. I like him as an actor, and I think he does elevate the film even more in this film. So he's a good addition. Patrick Dempsey is a good addition to this one. So I do like some of those new characters that they bring in. Some other characters I have a problem with. I'll get to those when we get to the negatives. I also did like that they changed the formula up here and they went with one killer. Because the first two films, we had multiple killers, you know, and especially for the first one, that was a big deal. That was something new that was added to the slasher genre that hadn't really been done before. And then they repeat that in Scream 2. But by Scream 3, you don't want to kind of become a caricature of yourself. You know, you don't want to be so predictable where audiences know exactly what to expect going in. So I like that they kept it to one killer in this film and kind of changed it up a little bit. And they made that one killer, again, believable, and making him Sydney's brother kind of adds more to that plot and to the tension there as well. So I like that they went with that decision in this one. And I like the ending. You know, the last scene there with Sydney, where she's at the I think Gail and Dewey's house, and she looks back and she sees that door, the side door, open. She has this moment where she just kind of looks out the door and she's just unfazed by it, and nothing is said. You just see her kind of walk off, and that's it. Hit credits. And to me, that's a really good ending, because you don't need to force any type of dialogue in the moment. We can see it. We can feel it. We know the victory, the emotional internal victory that Sydney has in that moment. She's conquered her fear. She's no longer afraid. She's not bothered by this anymore. And it's an earned victory. I think Gail and Dewey's relationship at the end is an earned victory for them as well. So I like the ending quite a bit in this film. As far as negatives, there are some negatives I do have with this one. I've never been a fan of Cotton's death in the opening of this film. That's always bothered me, because for me, I actually really like the character of Cotton. I think there's a lot more they could have done with him. And I like that actor a lot as well. So I like to have seen him more as kind of a, you know, steady character that shows up throughout the franchise. So I've just never really been a fan of his death and how they do it in the opening here. I just kind of felt like, I don't know, it just kind of cheapened the character a little bit, and was kind of a waste of an actor who's actually really talented and could actually add a lot to the film and franchise. So never really been a big fan of Cotton's death and killing him off in the opening act in this one. But that's just me. I'm not saying that that's something that is objectively flawed with the film. That's just a personal thing that kind of, you know, always, when I watch this film and we get through that opening scene, it always kind of puts me in a kind of a down mood moving into the next portion of the film. So that's something that, you know, I've never really liked. Another thing, the actors in this film that are playing Sydney, Gail, Dewey, Billy Loomis, like the actors in the movie that's being made within the movie, I've never been a fan of. To me, they come across just kind of annoying, and caricatures of the characters that I actually do like and am pulling for. And I feel like that kind of cheapens the main characters in the film, and it's kind of making light of the first two films and making light of the main characters that we are pulling for. Like, I want to take Sydney, Gale, Dewey seriously. I don't want to see another group of actors playing them making fun of them and kind of being a joke of those characters. And I felt like the performances by those actors were annoying. They were kind of a little bit over the top for me, and they really kind of affect my viewing experience with this film. And I'm never a fan. I've never been a fan of those actors and how they come across on screen. It kind of diminishes the main characters that I'm pulling for, and that's, I don't know, it's just something that has always kind of bothered me a little bit. I also think that this film is somewhat predictable, not so much in that there's only one killer, but in who the killer is. For me, I think the first time we see Roman and he's revealed to be the director of the Stab movie, to me at that point it becomes kind of obvious that he's the killer. Even watching it back this time, I feel like they don't really do as good of a job with the misdirection. I feel like it becomes kind of like, okay, it almost has to be Roman at this point type of thing. And I just, the first film I thought did just a great job with the misdirection of Billy and Stu. The second one, not quite as good, at least not with Mickey. I think they did a better job with Billy's mom, not so much with Mickey. Here, I don't think they did a very good job with the misdirection of Roman. I feel like you can kind of pick him out of the group pretty early on. So the misdirection there and some of the predictable beats along the way, I don't think were handled very well. There's also some plot conveniences in the third act that get kind of messy and that kind of pull me out a little bit. Some of the things that happen when Sydney has that final confrontation with Roman, and even how Roman fakes his death in that casket, but then I think it's Gale goes to feel his pulse. Like, if he was alive, he would have had a pulse. He should have recognized that. If he didn't have a pulse, and how is he still alive? You know what I mean? Just some sloppiness there a little bit, and how, Sydney just happens to have a bullet vest on her. Roman just happens to have a bullet vest on him too. He just happens to pop right back up at the very end after they've shot him 80 times just so that they can get that headshot in again. Just stuff like that I feel like they could have done a cleaner job with. At this point, again, it's predictable. It's kind of sloppy and messy writing, and I just felt like they could have cleaned that stuff up, because it really does kind of pull me out of that third act. When I should be feeling the most tension in the film, I feel the least tension in the film, and that's always kind of been a problem for me. And I also find this film more fun than I do scary. And while that kind of helps the film in some regards, because it is entertaining, when I come to a horror film, I want to be scared. I want that horror factor to be real. I want to feel that horror in the film. In this one, I don't really have that. So that's something that I feel like Wes probably could have done better at, is directing the tension and that horror, making you feel that throughout the film. I feel like that's kind of lost for me in this one. So those are my negatives and my overall thoughts with the film. I'm gonna give Scream 3 a 3.5 star review. I do really like this film. I think it's still a very good movie. I don't hate on it to the degree that a lot of other people do. I still have a lot of fun with it. I still find it very rewatchable, and I still think it's a very fun and good Scream movie. So those are my thoughts on Scream 3, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, you freaks, kick it, and rock on.